The Fountain of the Lovers of Science by Jehan de La Fontaine. 1413. The Metallic Transformation. Containing 3 ancient treatises in French verse. Namely, The Fountain of the Lovers of Science. 1618. It was in the time of the month of May, when one should flee grief and dismay, that I entered into an orchard, where Zephirus was the gardener. As I was passing before the garden, I was not clothed in silk, but kept in poor garments, so as not to appear in public naked, and, disporting myself with the desire to drive my displeasure far away, I heard a harmonious song from many gracious birds. Then I looked at the entrance of the garden, which was closed. But as my gaze considered it, Zephirus soon unbarred it. Then he withdrew again, in such a way, showing that he had not done this. And when I saw this manner, I drew back a little, and afterwards I entered in. That day I had not eaten a bite. I had great thirst and great hunger, but I carried with me some bread, which I had kept for a week. Then I perceived a fountain of water very clear, pure and fine, which was beneath a hawthorn tree. Joyfully I sat down nearby, and with my bread I made my supper there. Then I fell asleep, after eating, within that gracious orchard. And, so far as I could tell, I slept for quite a long time, because of the pleasure that I took, being in the dream I was dreaming. Now you shall know of my dream, and whether I afterwards found it false. It is true that it seemed to me that I clearly saw 2 fair ladies, like daughters of a king, by the look of their noble array, who came towards me gently, and I greeted them humbly, saying to them, Illustrious ladies, God keep you, in body and in soul. Be pleased to tell me your names. Do not wish to hide them from me. One answered with great graciousness, Friend, my name is Knowledge. Here is Reason, whom I accompany. Over hill, through vale, and over field. She can make you very wise. Then, hearing this language, and thinking I was awake, I was greatly amazed at this thing. For I saw coming forth from the fountain, which is so delightful and health-giving, 7 streams that I had not seen, when I had lain down in that place, which had so drenched me, that I was all soaked through. There the water poured out in abundance. Then I prayed Lady Reason, who was with knowledge, to tell me the meaning of the fountain and of the streams that are so rich and fair, and whose was the enclosure, on every side well surrounded, with trees and fragrant flowers, watered by the running waters, so that the like of it, never did it seem to me that I had seen. Then she said to me very gently, My friend, you shall know how it goes with that for which you have such great desire. Listen to me at your full leisure. In the fountain there is a thing which is right nobly enclosed. He who should truly know it would love it above all others. Whoever would seek and search for it, and then, having found it, put it in earth, and dry it into fine powder, then again resolve it into its water, provided that first they were parted, then the parts brought back together, and should cause the earth to rot. In the water that must nourish it, there would be born from it a maiden, bearing fruit at a double breast, provided one removed the rottenness. For neither she nor her fruit cares for it. The maiden of whom I speak, so pricks and burns in many a way. For into the air she mounts, flying on high, then comes down low, running to the vale. And as she descends, she fashions the form that nature gives to her. It is a dragon that has 3 throats, famished and never sated. All around him each one presses, encircling him as in a ring. But first, by heat, one drives away the grease that covers his face, which blackens him and so bedaubs him. Then one compresses him and eats him. She brings him forth again as well. This is done lovingly, much stronger than before by a great deal. Then she drinks him like apple juice. Thus the child, in its own fashion, often drinks and brings forth again, until it is clearer than crystal. Truly, the deed is just so. And when it is thus shining, in water very strong and mighty, it thinks to devour its mother, who has eaten its brother and father. Thus, as she suckles and broods him, the dragon, proud of her brood, his mother divides herself in two parts, which help him after this dividing. And then she delivers it to three throats, which have taken it sooner than gargoyles. Then he is the strongest in the world. Never is there anything that overcomes him. Wondrous he is, and mighty. 1 ounce of him is worth 100 in gold. It is a fire of such a nature, that it passes through all rottenness, and transmutes into another substance, when it attains unto its likeness. And it heals every sickness, abscess, leprosy, and gout. And to old bodies it gives youth, and to the young, sense and gladness. Thus it is a miracle of God. This the treacle cannot do, nor anything found beneath the sky, save this alone, which has been proved by the ancient prophets, and by learned physicians. But men no longer dare to inquire into it, for fear of the lords of the earth. Never yet did such mischance befall, for this one may do without sin. Many a sage has greatly loved it. Accursed be he who has defamed it. One ought never to reveal it, save to those who wish to love God. And those who truly love have victory, to serve God, to love, or to believe. For he to whom God grants space, to live so long that, in some place, he has labored at that work, has obtained the grace of God in himself. Know this for certain. Wherefore he ought devoutly to pray for the holy men who have said it in writing, according to their manner, philosophers and holy worthy men, whose number I cannot tell. But may God show mercy to them all, who have labored until now, and to those who love the science. May God grant good and patience. You must know that that serpent, of which I told you first of all, is governed by 7 streams, which are so loving and so fair. Thus I have wished to figure it, but I would name it otherwise. It is a stone, noble and worthy, made by divine science, in which virtue abounds, more than in any that is in the world. It is found by astronomy, and by true philosophy. It comes forth in the mountain, where no strange thing grows. No, of well-proved truth. Many sages have found it there. Yet still one may find it by the toil of good laboring. It is the philosopher's quarry of stone, so dearly loved and cherished. Easily may one have it, and yet it is worth more than any wealth. But you will have much hardship endured before you have found it. Having it, you will lack nothing that is found in this earthly world. Now let us return to the fountain, to know something certain of it. That fountain of great worth belongs to a lady of honor, who is called by the name Nature, and who ought to be greatly honored, for by her everything is made, and if she fail therein, it is soon undone. Long ago was that lady established, I assure you of it. For as soon as God had made the elements, which are perfect, the water, the air, the earth and the fire, nature in all was perfect too. Without nature, the little oyster can no longer grow in the sea. For nature is mother, all around, of all the things in the world. A noble thing it is, this nature. It appears very clearly in the form of man, whom nature has made, in whom she has in nothing done amiss. So too it is with many things, which by nature are brought forth. Birds, trees, beasts, little flowers. Altogether by nature are they made. And so it is with the metals, which are neither alike nor equal. For by herself she forms them, deep within the earth, of which I shall tell more fully, when I shall show you nature, whom I will that you behold, so that you may better follow her way, and her path in your own work. For I must needs reveal her to you. While she held such discourse, I saw nature, who was coming. And then, without making delay, straight towards her I went, in order humbly to salute her. But truly, first of all, she inclined herself towards me, giving me her greeting. Then reason said, here is nature. Set all your care on loving her. It is she who will make you to be a prudent master of her work. I listened to her diligently, and she began wisely to ask me whence I was, and what I sought in that place. For it was very wild indeed, and for the unlearned full of shadow. Lady, said I, by God of heaven, I have come here like one who knows not in what direction to go, to find good adventure. But I will tell you without delay, and in brief words my intent. I once saw a very great prelate, learned, a clerk, prudent and subtle, who spoke in the common tongue, as many a wise man does, of the knowledge of medicine, which he held very high and most worthy, showing forth its excellences by many great experiments of the philosophers and their science. He discoursed with great reverence. He had indeed been at school. Then I was caught in a burning bond of longing to learn and to know a thing better than all possessions. And it befell me to ask him whence first the science came, whether it is written where he found it, and who was he that showed it forth. He answered me without delay, in these words that I shall tell you. Science is thus a gift from God, which comes by inspiration. Thus is science given by God, and breathed into man. But with this, one also learns well at school, by his own wit. Yet before ever letter was seen, knowledge was already known by folk unlearned, but inspired, who ought indeed to be honored. For many have found science through divine wisdom, and God is still almighty, to give unto his true servant such knowledge as it pleaseth him, which displeases many clerks, saying that no man is sufficient if he has not been a student. He who is not master of arts or doctor receives but little honor among the clerks, and for this they ought to be blamed, when they know not how to praise another. But he who would rightly punish them would have to take their books away from them. Then would knowledge fail in many a clerk, doubt it not. And it would not fail in laymen, who make rondo and virelays, and who know how to set in meter, and many things which are needful to many people in full measure, which they do not find in their books. The carpenter and the mason study but very little, no, and yet they make as fair a work as students in medicine, in law and in theology, by having practiced it in their life. From that time I was greatly seized with desire to employ all my wits, so that by true experience I might gain the knowledge of that which many a man desires, by the grace of the sovereign Lord. My tale, reason, and nature were listening to right well. I assure you. Then to nature I said, Madam, alas, ever in body and in soul, I am in travail, wishing to learn a science wherein I might not err, that I may have honor in my life, without any man having envy of it. For all my good I wish to acquire, like the tillers of the earth, to delve and hoe the soil, and then to sow the seed, as do the true laborers, who are their own wealth and honor. And for this I would pray you, that you tell me, of your good will, how one names that fountain, which is so loving and so health-giving. She answered, Friend, in truth, since you desire to know it, it is called, by the best name, the fountain of the lovers. Now it ought to be known to you, that since Eve, our mother, I have governed the whole world, as great as it is all around. Without me no thing can reign, unless God will inspire it. I, who am called by the name Nature, have compassed the earth about, without, within, and in the midst. In everything have taken my place, by the command of God the Father. Of all things I am the mother. To all I give their proper virtue. Without me there is nothing, nor ever was anything found beneath the sky, that is not governed by me. But since thou understandest reason, I will give thee a fair gift, by which, if thou wilt act aright, thou mayest win paradise, and in this world great riches, whence may come to thee nobleness, honor and great lordship, and all power in thy life. For in joy thou shalt use it, and many a noble deed shalt see, through that fountain and that cavern, which governs all the 7 metals. From it they come, this is quite clear. But of the fountain I am mother, which is sweet as honey, and it is compared to the 7 planets of heaven, to wit, Saturn, Jupiter and Mars and the Moon, the Sun, Mercury and Venus. Mark well, thou art bound to this, the 7 planets that I have named. Let us, without gainsaying, compare to the 7 metals that come from earth, which are all made of one same matter. By gold we understand the sun, which is a metal without equal. And then we understand for silver, Luna, the noble and gentle metal. By Venus we understand copper, and indeed that is very well its name. Mars for iron, and for tin. We understand Jupiter the holy, and lead, in fair wise, for Saturn, which we call, or metal, leprous gold. Mercury is quicksilver, which has all the governance of the 7 metals, for it is their mother, and likewise as if their godfather, who can make the imperfect perfect. Afterwards I will relate it to thee again. Now heed well what I shall say, and how I shall declare the fountain to thee, from Lady Nature, which thou sayest here close at hand in figure. If thou knowest well how to set Mercury to work, as the writing says, thou shalt make from it a medicine, whereby thou mayest afterwards win paradise, together with the honor of this world, where great plenty of good abounds. Thou must know, by astronomy, and by true philosophy, that Mercury, of the 7 metals, is the matter and the principle. For by its weight, leaden, it keeps beneath the earth in a mass, notwithstanding that it is volatile, and very convertible into others, and is found beneath the earth, even as the dew is, and then into the air of heaven it ascends. I, Nature, tell it thee, and thou mayest then understand, moreover, that he who would have medicine of Mercury in his vessel must put it within the little furnace, to make the sublimation, which is of God a noble gift, which I will show thee, according to my power, and figure forth. For if thou make not body and soul pure, Never wilt thou make good amalgam, nor yet a good accomplishment. Set, then, thy understanding thereon. Now listen, if thou wilt know. Better is good sense than any possession. Take thy body and make trial thereof. As others have done, well do I know it. Thy spirit thou must well cleanse, before thou canst incorporate it. If thou wilt make a good battle, 20 against 7 is needed without fail. And if thy body cannot destroy the 20, at that point it must die. Such is the first battle of Mercury, very strong and fierce. Afterwards it must be brought to yield, before one can draw anything from it. When, according to thy will undertaken, it shall have yielded, then being taken, if thou wilt have the mastery of it, thou shalt shut it into the prison, whence it may not be able to stir. But with a gift thou must relieve it, or for thee it will do nothing, so long as thou doest the contrary to it. And if thou wilt pleasure it, thou must needs give it freedom, and restore it to its former state, and thereby thou shalt be its master. Otherwise thou canst not rightly know that which thou seekest and willest. But by this point thou shalt know it, and shalt come unto all thy desire, provided that thou do as to thy body, that whereof I here remind thee. Thou must then, without gainsaying, first make of thy body a spirit, and the spirit reign corporate into its body without any separation. And if thou knowest not to do all this, then do not at all begin the work. After this conjunction, the operation begins, from which, if thou follow it through, thou shalt have the glory of the heavens. But thou must know, by this book, which I, Nature, deliver to thee, that the mercury of the sun is not like to that of the moon, for it must always remain white, to make a thing after its own likeness. And that which serves the sun must openly resemble him, for it must be made red. And this is the first labor. And then one may join them, as I have said, in the fashion above, which thou hast heard, which ought to take hold of thine understanding. And if thou couldst not understand this, thou mightest err in thy work, and perchance thou wouldst lose much time, and wouldst use it in vain. But if according to my word thou knowest to labor, surely thou mayest go forward therein. Now thou hast one point of this work, which I, Nature, uncover to thee. It is needful for thee, by good reason, to make afterwards congelation, both of body and of spirit together, until the one shall resemble the other. And then it behoveth thee, by good sense, to separate the 4 elements, which all anew thou shalt make, and then shalt put into the work. First thou must draw out the fire, and the air also, for this matter, and afterwards compound them. This I tell thee here in express words. The earth and the water, on the other hand, serve right well for that art, and so does the quintessence. For it is, of our deed, the sense, its very due. When thou hast found the 4, and the one from the other separated, as I have said above, thy deed shall be half accomplished. Now thou mayest go on, provided that thou do what I before have in this chapter said to thee. Thou shalt put it in the little furnace. This is called the marriage, when it is done by a wise man. And in sooth that is right well its name. Now hearken well unto the reason. For the masculine is very apt unto the amiable feminine. And when they are found pure and clean, and the one with the other joined, generation is certain then. So that it is a lofty work, and one that is of great substance. So is it, in another fashion, with many a man and many a woman, who have good praise and fair renown, by their children whom they know to beget. Wherefore each one ought to prize that deed. So too of birds, of beasts, and fruits. Otherwise I can prove it thus. Put the seed of a tree in the earth, with right knowledge. After the putrefaction, there shall come forth generation. By the wheat thou canst know this, which is better than any other grain to have. Sowing one grain, 1,000 hast thou. There is no need to be very clever. Never yet was creature that can say unto me, Nature, I took birth without seeking thee. Nor owest thou aught to reproach me with. And even so it is with metals, of which mercury is the most subtle, when it is put within its body, of which I have told thee in my sayings. It must be enamored of its like, and then be wrought upon. But before it can come to the end, they must needs be parted asunder. Yet after that separation, they meet again, I promise you. The first time is the betrothing, and the second the espousal. At the third time, by true right, joined into a single nature. This is the perfect marriage, wherein lies altogether our whole work. Now mark well how I have said it. For in truth in naught have I misspoken. When thou shalt have parted them, and by little and little well repaired them, then afterwards thou shalt join them again, and the one with the other shalt unite. But, in thy lesson, remember well the proverb which Cato saith, the man who reads and understands not is like the hunter who takes nothing. Learn then to understand aright, so that thou mayest not blame the books, nor the good makers of them, who are perfect understanders. For all those who blame our work know it not, but speak ill of it. He who should rightly understand us would very soon come to our work. Many times hath it been wrought, and by philosophers proved, but many folk held for wise blame it, wherein they are but fools. And each man ought to blame them for it, who has good sense in himself without bitterness. But one ought fairly and well to praise all those who love so fair a jewel, and who purpose to find it by the toil of good laboring. And one should say, this is well done. Their fair achievement deserves renown. Now we have said one thing, which I must shortly open out. It is that, if thou wilt proceed well, thou make the union of the two, so that they may be espoused in a vessel that well knows how to be so. And then, for the sake of thy work, thou must order well the separation. And to tell thee the manner of it, it is nothing else but resolution, which is greatly needful unto thee. If thou wilt pursue the craft, it must undo the compost, even as thou hast need of it. When thou shalt see the earth dry, make it lick the water of heaven, for they are of one same nature. Labor then in the right way. It is fitting that it be watered, and by me shall it be governed. Now have I told thee, without mistaking, how thy body can take a soul, and how they must be sundered, the one apart from the other. But this parting, without doubt, is the key of all our work. By the fire is it brought to perfection. Without it the art were incomplete. Some say that fire begets nothing of its own nature, save only ashes. But, saving their reverence, nature is grafted into the fire. For if nature were not therein, never would the fire have heat. And if I wished to prove it, salt would I take to witness. But what of that? We will leave this matter, and of another we will speak praise. And when I heard this speech, I wrote the word upon my heart, and said, Noble lady of estate, be pleased a little to give ear to me, and let us return to these metals, whereof mercury is the chief. And do you, both you and reason, make me some declaration, or else I am deceived in your work. because of what you have said above. For you would have me efface what I have done at the first outset. And expressly you say it so. I know not if these be repetitions, or if you speak in parables. For I do not understand your schools. Friend, answered nature then, tell me, how dost thou understand the mercury that I have named to thee here above? I have told thee that it is shut up. Yet it often happens still, that in many hands it goes and comes. The mercury that I commend to thee, surnamed of Mercurio, is the mercury of mercuries. And many folk set all their care to find it for their enterprise. For it is not vulgar mercury. Without me thou canst not find it. But when thou wilt work therewith, thou must needs be right authentic, to attain unto the practice, by which thou shalt be able to have of our deeds a very great knowledge. The metals thou must come to know, or thy work will not be worth an oyster. Now, to understand the manner better, I will tell thee where the work is set, and namely where it hath beginning. If thou art son of the science, and he who would attain thereto, must needs know how to reach this point, or naught shall all his business be, for all the labor he can do. For this cause I call the fountain, which is so loving and so health-giving, Mercury, that true young shoot, who is the cause of perfection. Now hearken well to what I say, for in truth I shall and not speak amiss. This Mercury without a peer, thou mayst find in the sun, when he is in his great heat, and makes come forth many a flower. For after flowers come the fruits. By this point I can prove it thee, and yet by 100 ways besides, that are to this work very easy. But this one is the principal, and therefore I rehearse it to thee. Certes, I have not deceived thee, for in truth he is there found. And if in Luna thou wilt labor, as well there mayst thou find him, in Saturn and in Jupiter, and in Mars, whom I call iron, within Venus and in Mercury. One may right well find the surest. But, as for me, I found him in the sun, and then I wrought. And for this I have made thee this book, that thou mayst understand me fully. Within Luna, know in truth, I took my first possession. Yet I say still to the understanders, that it is all one in the two works, save only the rubifying, which nobly serves for the sun. And more than this I cannot tell thee, unless I showed thee the practice, and that I cannot rehearse to thee, save thou shouldst see it done. But hold well in thy memory what I have told thee up to here. Being come to resolution, thou must make inhibition, but begin not at all to do what I have said of this affair, unless thou hast proof of the deed, that thou hast well resolved the imperfect. And if thou canst pass this step, reign corporate it by true measure, returning to the former work. The other was but messenger. Thou mayst see it very clearly, how it is done right easily. By a shorter way thou canst not come unto the strongest of thy fortune. And if thou understand it, for certain, thou shalt not labor all in vain. And after this labor is done, thou must remake what was unmade. Putrefaction it is, in truth, whence there should be born great treasure. In this point lies all the mastery, whereon our whole work is kindled. And whatsoever I have said before, here lies the whole agreement. In the furnace is placed the gear. Thou must have the like of it. For the seed must first rot, before it can spring forth from earth. Even so the seed of man, which I name thee for a proof, rots in the body of the woman, and becomes blood, and then takes soul, but in the form of a creature. This secret here nature telleth thee, for a thing therefrom must needs be born. which shall know more than its master, to nourish the 4 children, who are already come full grown, who are called the elements, and one from the other are parted. Now hast thou 5 things together, and each one to the other well resembles. Also it is but one substance, all of one and the selfsame likeness. There must the child devour its mother, and afterwards destroy its father. Flour and milk and fruit with blood must one find in a single pool. Now look whence comes the milk, and what there makes the blood. If thou know not how to consider this, thou losest thy toil in laboring. But if thou canst well understand me, then labor, and delay no more. For thou hast passed the passage, where many a fool and wise man stays. There thou mayst a little rest thee, then begin again to labor, and pursue until thou bring forth perfect fruit, named the elixir. For by a work of learned skill is made the precious stone, the philosopher's renowned stone, who well know the reason of it. And there is no jewel, nor ill-got wealth, that can be worth that stone. If thou wilt that I tell its effects, it can heal every malady, and also, by its most noble deeds, perfect the imperfect metals. Nor does it any other thing in the world, save this wherein great virtue abounds. To marvelous works is it inclined, wherefore we call it medicine. And of all the other stones, that many princes hold right dear, none can so greatly gladden man, as this one that I name to thee. She, having no more will to speak, in declaring her operations, I fell right tenderly a-weeping, and said, Noble lady of estate, be pleased to have pity on me, or never shall I be delivered from that which I have found in a book. Tell me, lady noble and good, the sequel, and thou shalt do alms. Then she answered, Thou shalt know no more, until thou shalt have earned it by service. Alas, said I then, dear lady, and therefore I remind thee of it, that thou hold it as a thing well known. For above all stones of the world, virtue within our stone abounds, and therefore one ought to make it his endeavor to gain so noble a possession. If thou wilt that I follow thee well, to this point I may attain. Learn well, and thou shalt act as a wise man. For I have already told thee all the use. In the furnace thou mayst well behold it, wherein thy treasure must be, performing, by a certain ordering, the circuit of putrefaction. I have further taught thee that from this part, thy work remains in 2 portions. Of this I will tell thee nothing more, until I have seen in thee service for which I should tell it thee. For otherwise I should do folly. But when thou shalt have deserved it, in brief words I will have told it thee. Therefore ask me no more of it. I have but too much said of the rest. And when I had understood nature, I said, Deign to tell me the manner, how I may earn this of thee. For ever I would serve thee loyally, without turning elsewhere my thought. I cannot recompense thee, nor increase thy riches. Service will I render thee without ceasing, if thou wilt give me so noble a good, as to receive me among thine own. Then nature answered, Son, thou knowest what I have told thee. But if thou believest me, from henceforth, thou mayest well become more knowing. Lady, said I, by God of the heavens, I would fain be that one who should serve for such a work all his life long, without doing amiss. Deign then to tell me thy good pleasure, for I will in naught contradict thee. Then said nature, without mistake, Fair son, it behoveth thee to learn, to know the 7 metals, of which mercury is the chief, their strengths, their infirmities, and their changeful qualities. Afterwards it behoveth thee to learn Whence sulphur, salt, and oil proceed, whereof we now remind thee, which shall yet stand thee in good stead. Sulphur is right necessary, and will give thee much to do. Without salt thou canst not bring to effect any useful thing for thy work. Of oil thou hast a very great need, without it thou shalt do no shining deed. Of this thou oughtest well to bear in mind, if to our work thou wouldst attain. One word I will tell thee, now mark it well, whereof thou shalt be right content. One metal in a single vessel thou must needs put in a little furnace. This is mercury that I set forth to thee, and there is no need of any other thing. But, for the shortening of the work, point by point will I lay it open to thee. Now will I tell thee of gold, which among metals is the treasure. It is perfect, none is more so, of those that I have named above. The moon is so, and yet is not. In truth I certify this unto thee. There is but one metal in the world, in which our mercury abounds, and yet in all the 7 is he found. Full well have I proved this. Gold is hot and dry in due order. The moon is cold in her nature. Saturn is heavy and soft. Therein he may resemble soul. Many clerks, in their manner of speech, are fain to call him leprous gold. Venus right well resembles the moon, in peace and in the forge together. Mercury is cold and moist. Witness the lupin that is born from him. Mars is hard, and heavy, and cold. Of all the others he is the contrary. Be their nature hard or tender, it behoveth thee to comprehend all 7, as I have named them above, and well to know their virtues. And by this point thereafter thou shalt do with mercury that which thou wilt. Alas, said I, lady, it shall be done. Tell me the furtherance of the deed, and how I may again take in hand that which I have seen in thy orchard. For never yet, since I was born, was I so enamored of anything in all this world. I believe that virtue abounds therein. I hold it for a secret of God, which in this place hath been revealed. Then said nature, thou sayest true, and it is all the wealth of the world. For from my fountain there comes forth great riches, whence honor springs in the world in diverse manners. To many am I as a mine, and because thou art come hither with no revenue at all, and because thou hast a good will to labor like an honest man, desiring good fortune to encounter, the furtherance I will show thee. I have told thee in the notable chapter, I know not if thou hast it in mind, that thy work lies in 2 parts. I, nature, reveal it unto thee. Make thy penetrating sulphur by fire become attractive, and then make it eat its mother. Thou wilt have accomplished our work. Put the mother in the belly of the child, whom she has aforetime born. Then it shall be both father and son, quite perfect of 2 spirits. In truth, there is nothing else in it, save that which here I lay before thee. And if thou wilt add thereto some strange thing, or administer sulphur, salt, oil, or aught beside, in very deed thy work shall be worth naught. For the earth cannot bear any fruit but what one wills to sow therein. Creature begetteth creature, and beast begetteth beast after its kind. So is it with all seeds. Hold this saying from my sciences. Fair son, say not that this is folly. All must needs go up and down, by a way most gracious, most pleasing and most amorous. The road I have preordained, even like that of the dew. Into the air of heaven it must be raised, and then gently brought down again, by a most amorous pathway, which one must well follow back. In the descent which it makes, it beareth the perfect sulphur, And if thou canst come to this point, thou mayest well say, without lying, that thou shalt be able to have on earth great quantity of gold without offense. For if all the sea were of metal, such as one might choose, copper, quicksilver, lead, or tin, and thou shouldst cast but one single grain thereon, when it were heated, there would spring forth from it a fume, which would make a marvelous display, and thereafter all would be still. And then, when the fume were appeased, and everything grown calm, the sea would be found more fine in gold than any king has in his treasure. Now I will to the matter return above, in order to guide it well. When thy sulphur shall be eaten, thy mercury made mortified, hold it in prison 40 days, and then thou shalt behold thy love. And may God so let thee work therein, that thou mayest paradise acquire. Thou sayest here well ordered, the prison that I have named to thee. In faith, I give it thee in figure. Now remember nature, who has willed to minister to thee so noble a gift, and to reveal the science most admirable, and in this world most venerable. Otherwise it cannot be wrought. The stone whereof I have spoken to thee. Look then well upon the writings of our books, where, by figures, this science is shown, which is the flower of wisdom, a true thing without any fable, most certain and most veritable. The below is altogether like unto that which is above, changeable, to accomplish, at the closed end, the miracle of a single thing. For as from a single thing they were, and by the thought of one there grew all the things that have been born, so our works are of one created. The fair sun is there from the Father, and the moon the very mother. The wind beareth it within its belly. Its nurse indeed is the earth. Its father is the treasure of the world. And great secret is founded here. Its force is thus entire. When it returns again into the earth, separate the earth from the fire, by skill, and in its proper place, and gently sunder the gross from the subtle, which thou shalt keep apart. Then shall it mount from earth to heaven, and shall descend before thine eyes, receiving sovereign virtue, together with its earthly strength. Thus shalt thou attain to great glory, having victory through all the world. This is, of forces, all the force, where many labor and strive in vain. The subtle things thou shalt overcome, and the hard thou shalt pierce through. Marvels are many and well befitting, of which we have the notable reasons. My name is Jehan de la Fontaine. Toiling, I have not lost my labor, for throughout the world is multiplied the work of gold that I accomplished in my life, in very truth. Thanks be to the Holy Trinity, who is of every ill the medicine, true, and in effect the most fine, that one can seek in any place, be it on sea or on all the earth, and from impure metal its foulness he drives, until into matter pure he makes it, into most noble metal, of the kind of gold or of silver. The work is wrought by this means, and there is need of no other artifice. According to my small understanding, I truly find it so. Therefore I will name my book, which tells the matter and sets forth the artifice so precious, the fountain of the lovers of the most useful science, described by my small style. It was made in loving service, when I was no longer young in age, in the year 1413, when I had twice 16 years. It was completed in the month of January, in the city of Montpellier. Someone adds, here ends Jean de la Fontaine, who, holding this lofty work as a most secret gift of God, ought to make every man discreet. All the art that is of so great price may be contained in these 2 verses. If thou dissolve the fixed, and makest the dissolved to fly, and fixest the volatile, it shall make thee live in safety.